So let's get on to part 2 of this new series that I'm doing. If you've not watched part 1, that's okay. But you might want to go back and watch it after I go through some of this stuff. I talked about it. Let me just explain my methodology, by the way, while people are coming in today. I'm going to ask you to retweet this, by the way. But let me explain my methodology today. I've got a lot of work to do. Now, here's what I could do. I could do I reset up my office mostly. It's getting there. It's not quite as neat as I'd like, but okay. And so I'm capable of doing stuff like bringing up web pages. I'm capable of bringing up, we're doing a thing about John Solomon, nice graphics and everything. I'm capable of doing all that stuff today. And I think what I'm going to do, though, today is, and some people get bothered by this, I think what I'm going to do, though, today is show my work as I go along. I'm not going to try to prepare everything on the Solomon thing and then do one big hour-long Periscope like I do. I'm going to give it to you in little bits because I want it to sink in. My concern is that it would be like feeding you a 10-course meal all at once, right? Everything, the appetizers, the dessert, the entrees, the salad, boom, you get it all. It's too much. It's too much. So I'm going to try to give you a little bit at a time. Now, let me give you a little bit more here, then I'm going to end this. We'll see how you guys do with that. If you have questions, that's what I mean. Because the trick here is I'm trying to, let me explain how confirmation bias works, because you know this. Confirmation bias works, though, is if once you've agreed to something, once you've stated it, once you've retweeted it, you've got an investment in it. It's not your information. But if you repeat a fake story, it's kind of your story. Does that make sense? It's like you own it. And so therefore, if it comes out that it's fake, you have a natural, normal, human psychological urge of not wanting to accept that at first. Some people never accept it. Some people just always stay in denial. But the people who are both smarter and more ethical, it's because it's both, because smart can be dangerous, but wise, let me use that term. The people who are wise realize that they've got confirmation bias and they try to avoid it. Now, I'm going to show you some stories that you may have repeated. I'm going to show you some stories that you may think are true. I'm going to dissect them a little bit, then I'm going to back off because I want you to think about it and look into it yourself and decide for yourself whether you've been tricked. Because I know you have been. I'll put it like that. I know you have been. I know you've been fooled, and I'm trying to show you that. So let me show you how. Okay, let's bring up, in the first part of this, I talked about some of John Solomon's background connections. Now I want to talk specifically about where I've seen, before I get to these most recent lies and omissions, I want to talk about his history of them, particularly on this Russia story. And I'm going to go back to an article that he wrote. Maybe it's back here. Hang on. Here we go. I'm going to point out 2 stories. These were on the Hill, and these got all over Fox. This is the basis of the basis. And again, you'll see it's byline by John Solomon. And it says, Homeland Security confirms special entry for Russian lawyer. I'm going to show you the other story. And this one is you're going to see something here important. Exclusive. DOJ let Russian lawyer into U.S. before she met with Trump team. And it's an exclusive, so this is the fountainhead of the story. If you believe that the Department of Justice let Natalia Veselnitskaya, the Russian lawyer, in to the U.S. in order to set up President Trump. And by the way, Rush Limbaugh's bought into this, Sean Hannity. I don't think they understand it, but they're getting it from Solomon. I want you to understand They're getting it from Solomon. Exclusive. He was the first one to run with this story. DOJ let Russian lawyer into U.S. before she met with Trump team. Now, what I'm going to show you is that that's a lie. And it's a very interesting lie because it's a knowing lie. That is an intentionally deceptive headline. Do you understand? This would give you the impression that the Department of Justice let Natalia Veselnitskaya in specifically so she could have the Trump Tower meeting. And in fact, that is not the case. So, let me stop for a second. Let me explain this by going outside the story for a second. So I used to write for the Huffington Post. So if a headline came out, Lee Stranahan talked to Arianna Huffington before he took job working for Russia. That is true, but it's a lie. Let me explain. I have not talked to Arianna Huffington for 9 years, something like that, 8, 9 years. And I took my job at Sputnik a year and a half, 2 years ago. So it's true that I talked to Arianna Huffington before I took the job at Sputnik. Does that make sense? I also dropped out of high school before I took the job at Sputnik. I also had my second birthday party before I took the job at Sputnik. But I didn't do it immediately before. In other words, there was a correlation time-wise, but they're not caused by one another. And by the way, this is a very specific technique that John Solomon is using right now in this story that Adam Schiff met with Simpson. But just keep it in your head. Now let's go through and see. Now first off, in fact, Natalia Veselnitskaya, when she was at the Trump Tower meeting, was on a visa that she had gotten herself and having nothing to do with the DOJ letting her in. I'm going to say that again. Natalia Veselnitskaya has made multiple trips to the U.S., but the one before the Trump Tower meeting, that one, she was not in on a DOJ visa. And you know where you can see that? Let's read the story itself, shall we? And let's read the follow-up. So the exclusive here was DOJ let her in before. Okay, let's read the story. The Russian lawyer who penetrated Donald Trump's inner circle, he didn't penetrate, she had a meeting, but whatever, was initially cleared into the United States by the Justice Department under extraordinary circumstances before, again, not immediately before, but he's telling the truth, but he's lying to you, before she embarked on a lobbying campaign last year that ensnared the president's eldest son, members of Congress. So what he's implying here is Natalia Veselnitskaya ensnared people. He's setting up the setup narrative. This revelation means it was the Obama Justice Department that enabled the newest and most intriguing figure in the Trump-Russia investigation to enter the country without a visa. Now, by the way, that's not true about the Trump Tower meeting. She had a visa. She said this, and by the way, he's not denying it here. But later, a series of events between an intermediary for the attorney and the Trump campaign ultimately led to the controversy. But notice this word here, later. He wants you to skip by that. The impression that anyone would get here, and thousands of people have, and I've talked to a lot of people. Hang on one sec. I'm going to do something. I'm going to bring up on my phone. I'm going to look in the chat room. I want to see your comments on this. Okay. So hang on one sec. I'm going to explain why. I'm going to ask you a question. Were you, just be honest with me, Were you fooled by this? Were you under the impression that Natalia Veselnitskaya, at any point, were you under the impression that she had been gotten in, that Loretta Lynch or somebody like that had done sort of special thing? Just do me a favor. Just say yes or no. I'm just looking, but there's a time delay. See? It's weird. There's a time delay. But I just want to look and see what you guys think. I'm very curious about this. So there's one yes. Someone's saying no. There's another yes. Another yes. Another yes. Okay. So okay, that's great. That's good to know. But I want you to understand how pervasive this is, and hopefully you're starting to see that you were deliberately lied to. Now let me show you how Solomon did this. Let's look up so here's this exclusive, right? So he runs that at first. By the way, he don't take this personally. He's really trying to fool the president. He doesn't want the president to know what's going on because, as I mentioned, the last thing, he works with the leftist. He worked with leftist Soros-funded Center for Public Integrity, and Soros is behind Browder. So here's his follow-up story. Let's just go back. Sorry. So he runs this story. I'll do one other thing. I told you I'm going to show you my work in progress. So that's 7/12/17. He runs this. I use a program called Aeon Timeline. We talk about this in Citizen Journalism School, but I want to show you something. So Aeon Timeline is a timeline creation program, and it's pretty freaking awesome. I will be honest with you. It's pretty awesome. And I'm just going to go over and actually add this to the timeline so I don't forget. It's going to be a little boring. You're going to have to watch me enter data. I know. But it's worth it. And you might be interested in this anyway. Okay. So there. Oops. Let's try it again. There's Aeon Timeline. Okay. And the Solomon story was published on 7/12/17. Okay, I got to keep that in my memory. So now I create a new event, and I say Solomon, or I'll just put The Hill, and then the name of the story. And then I'm going to tell it to make this teal, so that the teal color tells me this is an article, and that this article came out on 7/12/17. Wednesday, July 12th, 2017. Okay. There it is. I'll add that event. Now, so now I've got that story. Oh, the one other thing I'm going to do here, I forgot to do it actually when I did it, is I can add entities, and entities are just people, and so I can, this allows me, it's another way to keep track of things. Hang on one sec. Let me just tag it John Solomon. I could add him actually in another way, but I'll just tag him right now. What I want to show you is he followed up this story. So that was the hit. It's if you watch Zombieland, the double tap, right? That's the exclusive story. Then he follows up with Homeland Security confirms. This was done 7/14/17. You see why I'm putting this down? I just want to show you this is how the double tap works. He does the first tap. Oops. Right here. Now the reason I put this on a timeline, by the way, is because when you put things on a timeline, I'll back off and show this to you in a second. The Hill, paste, make that teal, 7/14/17. Boom, there we go. And I'll also tag it with John Solomon. There we go. Okay, so if I back off here on the timeline, and I'm not saying nothing interesting is going to come up here, but I can start to see other events that surround it, and sometimes that tells you something, and sometimes it doesn't. In other words, let me just explain. Here's what I'm going to take you through my thought process as a journalist on this. What I would want to know is what happened on July 11th, what happened on July 12th, what happened on July 9th. Was there a story that was bubbling up that Solomon was trying to distract from? Does that make sense? I want you to see my thinking on this. Again, I'm talking about John Solomon. He is the executive vice president at The Hill. I talked about his background. He was with the Center for Public Integrity, 2011, where it's a Soros-funded organization, a left-wing organization, but he's pitched by Fox. So the reason I put this stuff on the timeline here is because I want to, wait, forgive me, I'm just going to try to, oops. Oh, do you know what? You know what it just did? Oh my God, I'll show you this. This is pretty freaking embarrassing. I wondered why it wasn't showing up. This is how awesome the software is, and yet this is frustrating. Those two events that I just entered, let me go back. I shortened it to 17. It thought it meant the year 17. Just think about that. It thought that it meant the year 17. See? No, not the year 17. 2017. Sorry. Boom. Oops. I may have screwed that up forever. Hang on one sec. Duration. Now I'm showing it's on like an epoch. I screwed up. I'm so dumb. Hang on one second. The year. So, see, that's why it wasn't showing up. I'll put it like this. I'd have a big scoop right there. It's interesting it's still a Wednesday. I don't know what that means. But see, like, look. See, as soon as I put it in, you notice other events on my timeline shows up. So what happened here? July. Louise Mensch tweets to John Carvillo about Farah. Ukraine blocks Russian social media networks. Trump meets with the Russian. That's in May. I don't see anything that's jumping out at me here, except for some reason Louise Mensch was attacking Cardillo. But I think you can start to see the advantage. Oh, and it's right around the time that Chuck Grassley sent the Chalupa letter. I see. I'll bet. Yeah, it's very interesting. I got to go back and look at this. But I just want to show you. Again, I warned you at the outset. I'm showing you my work. Right? This is how I work as a journalist. And by the way, this is why I ask for donations and stuff, because I do a tremendous amount of research on this stuff. I've been watching the Solomon thing brew for a long time. This is how I can accurately predict it. You can too. You're seeing how he works, how he operates. And later when I get to the Leschenko story, I'll show you how he operates. Right now, you can see right now he's operating and tricking the president on this. But I just wanted to give you a sense. So let's look at the follow-up story, shall we? Again, I want you to read. Let's read the words, because the way they fool you is they think you're going to be tricked by just the headline. So, Homeland Security confirms special entry for Russia lawyer. Just based on that, it seems like this is why so many of you were fooled by it. The Homeland Security Department confirmed that Russian lawyer Natalia Veselnitskaya, now let's really read this carefully, was granted special entry to the United States on multiple occasions in 2015 and 2016 at the request of the Justice Department. Now, why was she granted that? Because she was working on a court case. It actually tells you that later. But it also said Veselnitskaya eventually won a non-immigrant work visa around the time she met President Trump's eldest son. So she was not granted any special dispensation at this meeting. He's telling it to you right here. But this is not the impression you would get unless I slowed your roll and showed you this. So the facts are, this is the way influence operations work. This is the way smart people like John Solomon, who are connected to a network of other smart people who are evil, I don't know how else to put it, evil globalists lying to you. This is evil as far as I'm concerned. Using journalism to lie to you as a citizenry, I'm a journalist. I consider that evil. I get as pissed off as when I see, if I were a doctor, if I saw another doctor committing malpractice. This is evil. And I'm telling you how they do it, because I don't want you to be fooled anymore. Homeland told The Hill that Veselnitskaya was allowed to enter the United States on multiple occasions under a significant public benefit document requested by the Justice Department so she could participate in a court claim. This is all true, but it's not the impression you're going to be left with. It's a false impression that they're trying to give you. Does this make sense? This was done in concurrence with the U.S. Attorney's Office in New York, which is enforcing a civil asset forfeiture case. So in other words, at the time, he's trying to smear things around. What they want to do is, he wants to get you off the actual trail. The actual trail leads to the fact that Bill Browder is a liar, and Hermitage Fund is a liar, and the Magnitsky Act is a lie, and that Veselnitskaya is telling the truth. And now she's been indicted, by the way, don't forget, by the police state that Robert Mueller's running, that is trying to shut up people who could tell the truth. Because they don't want you to figure it out, because they don't want the president to figure it out, and Fox is in on it. How much did Fox push this narrative at you? It's right here. How much did people like Limbaugh and Hannity push the narrative? Because they read it and they trusted John Solomon. They never told you about his Soros connection, did they? Of course not. They never told you about Browder renouncing his citizenship or anything else that I talked about last night, the fact that Jonathan Meyer is his lawyer. So, I will post these two articles right now on Twitter so you can read them and parse them yourself. I'm going to stop because I'm getting a little pissed off. John Solomon, you're a cow. By the way, you watch, this coward will not engage in conversation about this. He knows I've got his number. He may block me. John Solomon, you coward. You coward. You are making this country worse. You're lying to the president and the president's supporters in a clear and provable way, and it's disgusting. And that's a pretty strong accusation. So you might want to answer it. But watch. You ask John Solomon. I'm going to retweet these articles. I'm going to stop because I'm getting pissed off. Till next time, I'm Emily Stranahan. Thanks for listening. Do me a favor. Once again, retweet this puppy. I don't want to end. I'm a Christian, so I don't want to be angry, but do not sin. And don't let I believe Christ said, don't let the Periscope go down on your anger. I could be quoting that slightly wrong. I don't know. Not a huge scripture guy, but you know what I'm saying. Okay, love you guys. Bye.